Hello, I hope you're doing well. Going into Season 14, my primary goal was to be a jack of all trades. I wanted to get at least silver on every subclass just to see if I could play at a slightly above average level in the most competitive form of solo PvP content. I knew I was going to get there on some subclasses, but on others I had some serious concerns about my ability to even get bronze, let alone silver. So let's take a look at the season and break down my experience with playing these specs in solo ranked. A few things to note here. First, I didn't bother with grinding every mirror matchup, so it won't be separating Marauder from Sentinel or Vanguard from Powertech. I only have so many hours in the day, and doubling the length of this challenge was, to me, simply not worth my time. Secondly, this is purely my own experience. Yours may differ. I'm not saying that your favorite class is good or bad. I'm probably just more dogshit at your class than you are. Alright, let's hop into this. Starting from the top, we have the iconic Vengeance Juggernaut and its mirror matchup Vigilance Jedi Guardian. Jug is a weird class for me. It can play like a Powertech but with less damage unless it gets you to like a really prime position, and especially in 4 DPS games, I was more running for my life trying to live into my second enraged defense more than I was actually doing damage, which was frustrating for me. Now if you get a healer game, you can go to town and breathe a little bit more, and the defensives are a lot more manageable, and you don't feel like you're only one mistake away from getting instantly globaled. And off guard with grit teeth in healer games is broken as hell, so it can be really strong, but it can be really wonky in just DPS games. I got really lucky with my placements on Jug and immediately got into silver, so I just had to grind out the games, but there were definitely days when I loathed playing my Juggernaut, just because you know you're going to be the focus target going into every game, and if you screw it up, you're going to have a lot of egg on your face. So I'd give my own experience a 6 out of 10. It can be situationally fun, but I had to be really careful to what I queued into. Next on the list we have the Concentration Sentinel and Fury Marauder. This is one of the first alts that I played. It is a hit and run turbo burst class, and it's a lot of fun. It's very slippery with how often you can be stealthing out, so you can run in, take massive chunks out of people, and then easily slip out of danger with your repeated stealth and predation. The primary frustration I had with the class was how inconsistent getting out of combat was. I can't tell you how many times I stealthed out, ran to Madagascar, and then kind of had to just sit there and wait for the game to tell me that I was out of combat so I could heal up. So that was frustrating. But the grind really wasn't that difficult for me, as I've played a fair bit of Sentinel before, and it's extremely powerful in the current meta. So I got my silver with relative ease, and as a whole, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. While occasionally frustrating, the toolkit makes you feel like you can queue into anything and not be actively punished for it. Sticking with the Force users, let's take a look at the Lightning Sorcerer and Telekinetics Sage. I think we all know that Sorc has some of the most redonkadonk turbo burst in the game, so if you get to free cast, it's about the most fun you can have with your pants on. However, as a new Sorc in solos, I had to endure the trial by fire of being a consistent focus target. This was a learning curve to say the least, and many a frustrated game was spent getting netted and globaled, but we eventually figured it out, and once I had the DCD rotations down and was a little more aggressive with my phase outs and healing up, it was a lot of fun. And if you can get the free casting, you can absolutely melt people. So all in all, Sorc was a 7 out of 10 for me. It wasn't the worst grind, but the initial learning curve was steeper than I was expecting. Wrapping up with Force users, let's talk about Deception, Assassin, and Infiltration Shadow. And oh boy. I'll be the first to tell you that I really enjoy the Assassin toolkit. 2 cloaks, massive CC potential, catastrophic burst damage, and off guard should be a recipe for easy wins, but I suck at Assassin. I'm just straight up not good at it. It's not a class that I play a lot, and frankly it showed during a lot of my games. Far too often I found myself not pumping damage that I thought I should be pumping, and not living in situations when I really should have survived, or not being effective in my off guard and CC toolkit. It took me a while to get used to this unique setup, and I sat at about 1200 for a very long time. It took me about 50 games to really start climbing up to a silver level, but I eventually got into a good queue and was playing a solid game and grinding my way up to the rating. But even after reaching silver, I'm definitely not confident in my Sin gameplay, and it's definitely an area that I need improvement in. So as a whole, I'm giving my Sin experience a 4 out of 10. It's not the class's fault, it's mine. Alright, let's talk about a class that I actually had fun on, AP Powertech and Tactics Vanguard. Now, I queued with AP just with Meteor Brawler set bonus, and I know that you could say you need Vet Ranger or Emergency Power, but I played Meteor Brawler and it was just fine, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. There's something immensely liberating about knowing that you're going to die quickly as a PT, so you just have one job and one job only, and that is to blow the first target. My goal was every round was to kill a player and a half before dying, and the vast majority of the time, we accomplish that goal. The class's raw damage output is so oppressive that even when you die as first target, you're still going to have very competitive, if not top damage. Now, there is some skill involved with popping your defensives and actually getting in range to do some damage, but for the most part, I just held W and killed shit, and then I won games. So this was a pretty easy silver for me. I had a boatload of fun. 8 out of 10, would definitely do again. Speaking of easy silvers, I played a combination of Concealment and Lethality on my Operative, the equivalent of Scrapper and Ruffian on Scoundrel. Now I've played this class for a bit now. It's not my main, but I have some experience on it. The combination of stealth, CC, healing, and just ridiculous damage is straight up oppressive in solo ranked, and it's very rare to be tunneled first as an Operative, so you get to participate in the full duration of most rounds. This is one of the classes that I had no problem reaching silver on. Frankly, if I had not been doing this Jack of all trades challenge, I probably would have pushed for gold on it instead of grinding some of the classes I was worse at. However, I'm happy I decided to shelve my Operative and be satisfied at silver, because every time I play Operative in solo ranked, I feel like I've committed a crime against God. 9 out of 10, totally worth going to hell for. And now for a class at the opposite end of the spectrum for me, Marksmanship Sniper and Sharpshooter Gunslinger. This class has been my main for 10 years now. I love playing it in regs and in PvE content. I love it with every fiber of my being, except for when I play in solo ranked. When I play a sniper in SR, I suck fat dick at it. Like, no joke, I was basically throwing every match I got into, not intentionally of course, but because I had exactly zero idea of how to make use of the toolkit while being the focus target of 4 burst specs. I would get nuked over and over and over again, and occasionally I'd get a game where I could free cast, and that was fun, but those days were few and far between. Most of the time, I got absolutely dumpstered on. I seriously thought this was going to be the barrier to this challenge. My rating was down to like 1100 on my main sniper. The games just weren't pretty, but instead of throwing in the towel, I went and talked to Scooby and Elysian, 2 gold-rated snipers, and I picked their brain about how to make the class work in solo ranked. I knew it could be done, I just needed a few tips on how to make it happen. Basically, Sniper's toolkit isn't about recovering from damage. It doesn't have the self-heals to really restore your health if you get chunked in the opener. Sniper is all about avoiding damage. If you're reacting to the damage that you're taking, you're too slow in the draw. Popping your defensive the instant before you need them is the key. And this went against every instinct in my Mercenary main brain and took considerable rewiring on my end. However, once we figured out what was going wrong with my game, getting silver wasn't actually too much of a grind. I was playing at a level that I knew I would get the rating eventually if I just played enough games, and that confidence and practice paid off. I eventually ended up getting silver on both my sniper and my gunslinger after 10 years of being absolutely terrible at it. I'm really happy with this one, but the learning curve was the most oppressive out of the bunch. 6 out of 10, if you're just getting into it, prepared for an unparalleled trial by fire, but once you're through the learning phase, it's a hell of a lot of fun. And finally, Innovative Ordinance Mercenary and Assault Specialist Commando. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that I'm pretty washed. My days of pushing for top 3 are long behind me on this class, but I was still pretty confident that I could peak gold. And for the first half of the grind, it looks like I was accurate in that prediction, until I got trapped in my own personal solo ranked hell, which is the perpetual roller coaster of being stuck at 1450. I grinded at 1450 for about 2 months and was just stuck. I had more 3 versus 4s than I could count, plenty of games with people just without gear, and just straight up unwinnable games out the wazoo. For every game that was a hard fought struggle, there was a game that was a loss the moment the match was made. It was hell, but we kept at it despite the 2-month-long grind, and I could feel myself making minute improvements over time and brushing off some of the rust that I had built over the past couple years. I was able to properly carry some games that would have easily written off as losses at the start of the grind, and eventually I got into a half-decent queue, played some of my best games yet, and topped the 1500 barrier after months of just being terribly stuck. Now, I love my Mercenary. It has a very strong toolkit, it's pretty forgiving to play, and the damage can be utterly punishing to an unsuspecting player. It's a great class for those of you who are new to solo ranked. I just had a terrible luck of run at the end of my grind, which made me completely miserable. But as a whole, 10 out of 10, I still love this class despite it making me cry. So, that was my experience in solo rank this season. Looking at the totals, we're probably going to wrap up with 2 bronzes, 8 silvers, and a gold, so a haul of 825,000 ranked tokens, plus all the flares and titles that come with that. All in all, this challenge was stressful for sure, and it forced me to play classes that I wasn't really comfortable with, but that was half the fun of it for me. It pushed me beyond my comfort zone to really explore areas of SWTOR that I never would have dared touch before. But that's all I got. To everyone else who played this season, GG. I hope you're able to accomplish your goals and have some fun along the way. I will see you in Season 15. Take care now, and have a good day. Ta-ta.